What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Red Gold Standard podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and tonight I'm with my good friend Mike Andrews. Matt Llewellyn is on his way home from work. He will be here very, very soon. Before I kick it over to Mike, if you guys are watching on Twitter, head over to youtube.com/49ers Hive. Join from there so we can see and interact with your comments. We're not ignoring you. We just cannot see them. So go to youtube.com/49ers Hive and join the show. Share your thoughts. There's been a ton of 49ers news this week. We're going to break it all down. We got a great show planned, but we want to hear your guys' thoughts as well, because that's what makes the show. With that all said, Mike, how you doing this evening?
I am good. We did the 53-man roster on our channel yesterday, and then today we get to talk about 53-man roster volume 2, version 2. So I'm ready to break it all down. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm in a great mood, man. Late night on the East Coast. It's beautiful. I'm outside. Nice little breeze going. I'm ready to talk some Niners, man.
Yeah, it's been a crazy couple of days for us. And the one thing before we get into all of this, I know we're still waiting on Matt. We'll get into it. But being 49ers content creators, this just gives us gold for like another year. I know people were tired of the Jimmy Garoppolo topic, and I think it was starting to kind of wear on people. But now that he's back and we're going to be able to talk from basically the complete opposite of what we saw last year, where Jimmy was a starter, people wanted Trey to get in. Well, now Trey's the starter, and we get to see how he handles Jimmy right behind him. It's going to be tough. We'll see how things work out. First thing I wanted to talk about, Trey being the ultimate gentleman and posting the picture of the 49ers quarterbacks that made the roster that the 49ers posted. He shares it to his Instagram story, tags both Jimmy and Brock Purdy, and says something on the lines of let's go, you know. Does this surprise you? Do you expect anything else from Trey Lance at this point, Mike?
No. For a half a second, I thought there was some chinks in the armor of, best friend for life, and Jimmy's been nothing but great, and da-da-da-da. And the very last presser, Trey Lance says, we don't really talk much, just in passing. And he's not in any of the meetings or anything like that. So I was like, there's a little bit of friction there. And then they announced the deal, and I'm like, how's he going to walk that back? And then boom, just like the professional that he is, he goes out there and he posts the post. He posts the post, you know what I'm saying? And so I thought it was pretty cool to see him go out there and do that. And I, for one, think it was great. So you don't expect anything less from these guys. You know, a lot of the fan base think Trey Lance is going to be looking over his shoulder, and Trey Lance is going to be like, there's a couple of things we have to remember. There's always a backup quarterback. So you should always be looking over your shoulder. And if your play is good, you don't have anything to worry about. I'm not trying to say he has to be perfect, but if you are going out there and you are doing your job to the best of your abilities, you either have it or you don't. It's that simple. And the Niners believe that he has it. That's why they traded up to acquire him. And we're good to go. I mean, I'm sure we'll dive into it a little bit more, but I got a couple of other things to say on that. I just don't want to, word vomit you guys right now. So
that's right. So Kyle Shanahan obviously was asked why, maybe not necessarily why this happened, but asked about his view on the quarterback situation. And he said, when I told Trey that Jimmy's going to come back, he's like, awesome. That dude was awesome to me last year. I can't wait to be the same way. Do you believe that? Do you think that's what Trey said?
I do. I know Kyle might have been sprinkling a little bit extra on top of it, right? But I actually believe that that Trey wasn't worried at all. You know what I'm saying? Like the building had all their confidence in him. Kyle said, when we believe Trey can beat out Jimmy, we'll move on from Jimmy. They tried, it didn't work. So the logical thing was to restructure that deal and keep him as a backup, not just a backup. I'm going to keep saying it, the best backup in the league. I said it on this show a couple of times. I said it on our show. And I personally think we have the best quarterback room in the NFL now. I really do. We have a guy that we know can get us into the postseason. Now, the team might take over once we get there, but we know that we have a guy as a backup that can get us there. And we know that the team believes they are upgrading certain aspects of the game now that he's there. So I have no reason to be upset about anything. As far as being a 49er fan, this is a hell of a time to be alive. For the first time since Montana Young, and I'm not saying that these two guys are those two, but for the first time in a long time, we have a good 1 and 2 at that position. And by the way, people didn't even believe in Steve Young when he first got here because he was trash in Tampa Bay. So I mean, this is good for us. This is really, really good for us as Niner fans. I'm excited about it.
I might add Smith Kaepernick for that first year. Solid 1-2. But I also will not disrespect Brian Hoyer and CJ Beathard. Joking, obviously.
All right, I see. All right, I see the mood we're in tonight. I like it. Let's go.
Yeah, man, this just been crazy. So obviously this news breaks, and I started a new job on Tuesday. Kind of really unexpected. Got a couple of days notice, but I have not been able to. I'm not able to be on my phone the way I was, right? So Monday, obviously, the 49ers news breaks of Jimmy Garoppolo. So I'm like, oh, holy shit. And I'm texting my guy Steve because he's coming up with all the graphics. And Tuesday comes and all the rosters. I'm like, of course I start this job once all of this content needs to get posted. But Steve hooked me up. He's always a huge help. Anyway, all of these roster cuts, right? We'll save a little bit more of the Jimmy Garoppolo topic for when Matt gets in here. We have a lot more to say about that, including I want to play a clip of Richard Sherman talking about it on his podcast because I thought he's got a very, very unique situation where he's been in the locker room with Jimmy Garoppolo and can analyze him from kind of an outside perspective. What cut, maybe from the initial 53-man roster cuts, surprised you because there were some more today that we'll get into in a bit. But from that initial cut on Tuesday when the 49ers had to get down to 53 men, which one surprised you the most?
If I had to just go with one, it would be the wide receiver in Murray. Oh, not was it? Is it what was the gunner's name? Turner. Sorry, Turner. I thought he went out there and played pretty well. He had a drop or two in the preseason that was a little bit concerning. But considering the depth and where we were, the Niners only needed 5 wide receivers, and I thought that he was going to be a phenomenal gunner on special teams. I thought, the special team acquisitions that we made this year were the 3 big ones, the Burke, the Odin, and Ray McLeod. But I thought he was going to be another one that was like, holy smokes, like this guy has something here. And I was looking forward to seeing what our special teams unit could do with the combination of the 4 of those guys out there contributing in a major way. And so when he was released, and it's not a shot at Jennings or anything like that, but I would have been okay with them swapping those 2 if that was, if that's what it came down to. But we'll get to other moves later on. But yeah, that was probably my biggest one.
I don't remember. I believe it was the initial 53 again. The past couple days have been a blur. Kimoko Toure. He was initial 53 cut, right?
Yeah, I was going to say him, but I was going back and forth between the 2, but yeah.
Well, I appreciate you saving it for me because that was a really, really big surprise cut. And I'm saying that when I even listed him as my potential surprise cut when we had previously discussed this. And I remember, if I remember correctly, it was on the show with Patreon show with yourself and Tony. And I remember both of you guys were like, come on, like he just got a nice contract. He's a vet. He had a good amount of sacks last year. And I actually talked myself out of it. I'm like, you know what? You're probably right. I think I'm just kind of going for a little bit of a hot take. Turns out I was right. And he did get cut. I don't agree with it. I would have rather have kept Kimoko Toure than a guy like Kerry Hyder. And I'm a big Hyder fan. But I guess they really like what they have in Hyder. And Kimoko was the odd guy out, unfortunately. He posted a very, very nice Instagram story. I don't know if you saw it. Did you catch it? So he posted our guy Wayne's graphic of the story that he got cut. And he kind of said, you know what? I appreciate all the 49ers fans. No hate to the team or the coaches. It just didn't work out. They had some guys they really liked. But my time here was great, and I wish them the best. You did catch it?
Yeah, I saw it on Twitter, so I didn't know where the post came from. How people like grab their stuff and put it on all the social medias.
Yeah,
he was talking about, great locker room, great fans, great coaching staff, great players. Like, it was great, grateful for my time there. So I actually did see that. I did catch that.
All right, so I'm going to pull up the 49ers 53-man roster here, and we can go through it position by position up until Matt gets here. We're going to get into the Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance. Trust me, guys. We just don't want to cover too much before he gets here. He's rushing home from work, got stuck in some traffic. Happens in San Diego. All right. Let me fix this real quick.
I'm gonna while you're pulling that all up. So it is a perfect 70 degrees out here, and I have a fan on. I need to turn that fan off. I need to step away, and I don't know. I think I want to go get a hoodie. Like, I'm so excited for hoodie weather. Like, it's not hot. I mean, it's not cold, but it's not hot. Like, I think I want to I want to grab a hoodie or something. Like, this is. I was messaging my wife. I left my phone inside, and now I don't know what she's doing. So, um, I I guess she might have fallen asleep already. It's late, so she's probably already asleep.
That's funny. It's funny. The same thing happens with me and Ash. We'll be talking right by each other for 10 minutes straight, and then I run in here to like start the podcast, and I text her like, "Hey, I forgot this." MIA for an hour. What do you do? Where do you go? What do you women do? I really don't know. Blows my mind. All right.
It's as soon as we're going, it's like what's the expression when the cat's away, the mice will play.
Yep.
Oh man, that's great. That's great, man.
All right, so let's get into this position by position. Shout out to 49ers.com. They posted a nice breakdown. Obviously, quarterbacks. Were you surprised they kept Purdy over Sudfeld? Because after the news broke on Monday that Jimmy was re-signed, we knew who the top two were going to be. Were you surprised they kept the rookie over Nate Sudfeld, Mike?
I was initially because I felt like Sudfeld was going to get grabbed up by someone. Sudfeld is going to be a decent backup. He's got league experience, been in a couple of different systems already. I thought that it would be easier to cut Purdy and then bring him back on the practice squad. So I was kind of expecting that to be the case, but that the move itself is kind of telling. That tells me that the Niners, they might find a trade partner for Jimmy, but they're not banking on it right now. Instead, this tells me like we needed a veteran in the room with Trey. That's what Sudfeld was originally signed for. Well, what veteran better than Jimmy, who's been in the system for the last 5 or 6 years? So I get it. I get it. It's kind of telling. They're not desperate to move on from Jimmy. We have to stop acting like that's something that they're looking to do. Not that they're not looking to do it, but they're not desperate to do it, is what I should say.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting in the press conference. Kyle Shanahan said Brock Purdy, and the quote here is, earned his roster spot basically with an impressive preseason showing. I was impressed with Purdy, but I still thought that Sudfeld had the upper hand. There's usually a player every preseason of 49ers fans like completely overrate. We're like, oh, this guy's like gonna make the roster for sure. Doesn't end up happening. Well, Brock Purdy was that guy this year, and he did make the roster. So shout out to him. Mr. Irrelevant is not an easy thing to do.
If I'm not mistaken, I don't have the transcript in front of me. I could click it though. It's right. I have it here over here. But he said that Purdy earned the backup role. He was like, but now that we have Jimmy here, it'll be Jimmy as the backup. And Kyle was asked directly, will Jimmy be dressed and up for the Chicago game? And he said, yeah. So Kyle's excited that I don't have to get rid of this guy. I don't know, man. I think it's a good thing. Once all the emotions settle, and it might take some longer than others, people will get it that this was a good move. And Sudfeld, as good as he was, like you said, maybe he did have an edge, right? I kind of would feel weird if we went into this season with just Trent and Purdy, but fortunately we're not there. We don't have to imagine the what ifs right now, or at least not at this time. So I like it.
Ronnie's asking, since Sudfeld was picked up by the Lions, the team doesn't have to pay the whole contract, correct? That is correct. I believe $2 million of it, out of the $2 million, like 1 point something. So the Niners are on the hook for like 900,000. Is that correct, Mike?
Yeah, it's just around 1 million that the Niners are responsible for at this point. Yep.
So shout out to him. And yeah, he's with the Lions. So good luck there. All right, moving up to running backs. The 49ers surprisingly cut, although not on Tuesday, they cut Trey Sermon today. It has him listed here. Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson Jr., Tyrion Davis-Price, Trey Sermon, Jordan Mason, and Kyle Juszczyk were the running backs. Cross out Trey Sermon because he did not make it. Any surprises here other than obviously Trey Sermon?
Trey Sermon was the surprise. And as you guys know, I've been going to bat for Trey Sermon for a long time. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't have him making my final 53 when I was looking at it. And that was just me trying to make some room for some other people and things like that. But I didn't have him making it. So I wasn't surprised to see the news today, especially when we heard that the Niners claimed someone. They have to release somebody else. We knew about some other transactions that were going to happen. We'll talk about them when we get down there. But the truth, the way it works out is he ended up being gone anyway. So that speaks well for a guy like Jordan Mason. They liked what Mason brought to the table more than what they saw from Trey Sermon in the last two seasons,
which really is unfortunate. They continue to draft running backs high up in the draft that get outproduced by late round picks or undrafted free agents. Hopefully this is their sign to stop doing that, because they're able to get a lot of production. I think my guy Kurt Rosenfeld, I don't have the tweet here, but tweeted out all of the leading rushers for the past 4 or 5 years since Kyle Shanahan got here. And I have the tweet. 2017, Carlos Hyde, obviously not this regime's. 2018, Matt Breida, undrafted. 2019, Raheem Mostert, undrafted. 2020, Jeff Wilson, undrafted. 2021, Elijah Mitchell, 6th round. Yet they continue to spend top 3 round picks on running backs. Hopefully they stop that. I was surprised as well, Mike, that Trey Sermon finally did get cut. I thought he would at least have one more year, especially given he didn't really play last year. But hey, when you know, and apparently Kyle Shanahan felt he knew.
I don't think that they need to stop it as much as some people think. We're not spending 1st and 2nd round picks on these guys. What I like about it is when you're drafting the first 3 rounds, you're drafting for upside. The dangerous word is potential, right? But that's what you're drafting for in those early rounds. You're picking top 10 in the draft, like you're looking for the guarantee, right? But then once you get outside of like 15 or 16, you're just drafting for upside. You're looking for guys with an immense amount of talent, and you hope that they can hone their skills and prove to be consistent. And if you can't prove to be consistent, then you're just like everybody else that's down in the draft later on. So I don't necessarily want them to stop doing that, but it would be cool to see if some of them hit. I get it. Like the tweet you read speaks for itself, but I still like the idea of them going out there and looking at upside, especially with how many running backs we go through every single season.
That's fair. All right, moving on to receivers. They kept Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, Ray McLeod, and Danny Gray. Any surprises here? I know you talked about Malik Turner being a solid special teams and gunner, but I think this was kind of expected for receivers, right, Mike? Other than Turner.
Yeah. Yep. Like I said, I had 5 receivers also. Just swapped out Jennings for Turner. That was it. But other than that, I mean, I'm happy with the 5. We have some size there that we can use Jennings with and things like that. I believe Jennings is officially the biggest receiver on the roster, so I'm not even mad at that. So it's a win-win no matter how you break it down.
I agree. I think it's a really, really good group. Arguably the best the 49ers have had since Shanahan's here for sure, in a long time, definitely. And then we're moving on to tight ends, and it's a lot of the same. George Kittle, Ross Dwelly, Charlie Warner. I thought this was the first year, and since Shanahan's been here, we're going to get some production out of a tight end 2 position. That hope went completely down the drain when they cut Tanner Hudson, and then they cut Tyler Kroft, and even Troy Fumagalli, who I didn't even think was much, but it's like, what's the commitment to Ross Dwelly and Charlie Warner, Mike? I don't get it.
So when I did my 53, I only had 2 tight ends. It was Warner and Kittle, but I had 2 fullbacks, if that makes any sense. And the backup fullback was Ross Dwelly. We saw him fill in that role, not just like, an okay role, but he was admirable. I like the production we saw from him, and it's something that we're going to need with a vet like Juszczyk out there. God forbid, knock on whatever you got over there to knock on. Juszczyk doesn't get injured. We know that Dwelly is going to be the immediate backup there at the fullback position. So versatility is going to be the key to a lot of these positions that we're looking at. So, I like Kroft. I thought Kroft was going to make it, but he didn't. So.
My guy Joey says, remember to bring back Kroft after IR moves. Nice to know. All right, moving on.
They did, by the way. He's already back.
Okay.
They got rid of. Well, we'll get to him in a second.
All right, so that leads us to the offensive line. Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Spencer Burford, Mike McGlinchey, Jalen Moore, Colton McKivitz, Nick Zakel, and Daniel Brunskill. Any surprises here for you?
Zakel. Um, I thought that they might have tried to stash him on practice squad, but they saw something that they liked in this young man that they didn't want to risk him getting away. The backup tackles have always been, an interesting and troublesome area. Jalen Moore did fill in when he was healthy, but he's coming off of that injury, didn't look so good in his only preseason action in Game 3. But again, coming off of the injury and everything, I'm happy to see him still sticking around with the team. Again, the potential and the upside, we know what it could be, and he hasn't even touched that yet. He hasn't even touched the potential, so I like it.
Yeah, this one, I mean, the whole offensive line this offseason has been tough to kind of get a feel for. This is kind of the safest, in my opinion, prediction. If I could have predicted, this is probably what I've gone with. I was a little surprised West didn't make it. He was cut and made the practice squad. I thought he was going to be able to make a little more noise once he got signed, but can do it.
Did they bring West back on the practice squad?
I believe so. Yes.
Oh, I know they got Poe. I didn't see West at the end of it. So all right,
maybe I'm wrong. I could be confusing the two. Chat, if you know, type it in the chat.
Yeah, sorry. I don't remember. I thought they grabbed him and Turner, Poe and Turner, at the end there. So I'm not quite sure.
You're probably right. I think I am definitely making them mixed up. All right, moving on to defensive line. Steve says negative, so you're right. Poe is, West is not. All right. Defensive line, arguably, maybe not arguably, the 49ers' most talented group. Nick Bosa, Javon Kinlaw, Charles Omenihu, Kerry Hyder, Hassan Ridgeway, Drake Jackson, Eric Armstead, Samson Ebukam, and Kevin Givens. I already shared my surprise with Kimoko Ture. Any surprises here for you, Mike?
No, I think you could have kept Ture over Omenihu or Hyder, just from the production that we saw him doing even in preseason. I mean, he was moving around so well. I actually thought that he was playing some linebacker, Ture. He was moving around so quickly and all, and disengaging from blocks when the run wasn't his direction and things like that. Making some tackles, 4, 5, 6 yards down the field. So he was playing more like a linebacker, like just his athleticism and things like that. I definitely thought he was going to make it, but I'm not mad. They were able to bring him back and get him on the practice squad, so it's pretty cool.
Definitely. Like I said, Ture I thought was going to make it. I'm surprised they kept Hassan Ridgeway. I thought that he was kind of on the bubble, and I didn't think he showed much this preseason. I'm not mad at it. I just didn't expect him to make it, to be honest with you. All right. Linebackers. Fred Warner, Aziz Al-Shaair, Drake Greenlaw, Oren Burks, Curtis Robinson, and Demetrius Flanagan-Foles. Any surprises here for you?
It was the Robinson one. I wasn't clear on the IR rules and PUP rules. I thought that they could put those guys on that list before the final 53. And so we knew that Curtis Robinson had the injury. And as soon as this was done, he was one of the guys that they made immediate changes for the following day. So I was a little surprised to see him there, but he's on IR now. But I'm not surprised at all. Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles is a really, really good fill-in for any of our top 3 guys, and he has some special teams contributions as well. So I like that a lot.
I agree. This is a solid group. I'm really excited for them to go into the year with health finally, outside of Robinson you mentioned, but the top 3, Warner, Al-Shaair, and Greenlaw. Al-Shaair totally came onto the scene last year. He was kind of in that Demetrius Flanagan-Foles role the previous year where he was able to kind of do special teams and that reserve linebacker role. But man, when Drake Greenlaw was out, did he make a name for him? Really excited to see what this year has in store for this trio. And on to the cornerbacks. Point of contention for the 49ers fans this offseason. Charvarius Ward, Emmanuel Mosley, Samuel Womack, Diamador Lenore, and Ambry Thomas. And that's obviously with Jason Verrett on the PUP list. Any surprises here?
I thought Tariq Castro-Fields was going to make it. I did. But, if you get down to a numbers game, you got to keep Robinson. You got to keep Jimmy Ward. So there were going to be some tough cuts, some guys who were least likely to get in. Lenore seemed to really relish in his new role, playing in the slot, or playing, covering the slot. He talked about how excited he was about it and things like that. So I guess maybe you didn't have to keep Tariq Castro Fields if you're going to get some production from Lenore, who is now looking like a two-side player, right? Inside and outside. So yeah, that's a good thing. Again, we talked about versatility being the reason some of these guys make the roster, like Ross Dwelly. That same can be said for a guy like Diamador. So I like it a lot.
I agree. I thought Castro Fields would make it. Apparently they felt they got a good group here without him. So hard to argue against it with production they got this preseason. I'm really excited to see Charvarius Ward out there full time, see Emmanuel Mosley get bumped down to cornerback 2. And then when Verrett gets back, maybe he's able to supplant Mosley as CB2 and drop that. That's a really, really solid top 3. So, all right. Now to safeties. Talanoa Hufanga, Tarvarius Moore, George Odom, and Jimmy Ward. And Ward will obviously start the year on the PUP list. Any surprises here, Mike? I'm going to ask you the same for every position.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Nothing, no surprises here. I didn't think they were going to tap out on Huff yet. Moore, I was happy that he made it. I thought that, against someone else coming off of an injury and things like that, working their way back, getting his game speed back. George Odom played well, and then Jimmy Ward is Jimmy Ward. He's the top safety in that room there. So I was happy with this line. I'm no beefs here.
They had signed to Sean Gibson pretty recently after the news of Jimmy Ward's injury. I was surprised he didn't make it, to be honest with you. I thought that was a veteran presence. You can plug and play until Ward returns and then say, hey, thanks for your services. But he was cut pretty quickly. So they're rolling with the younger guys and kind of a little bit of unproven. So let's hope that works out well for them. And on to the specialists. The same trio as last year, Robbie Gold, Mitch, and Tabor Pepper. No surprises here, right?
No, they didn't bring in another punter. They didn't bring in another kicker. And I don't recall anyone else doing long snapping. So we literally didn't have any options here. So I was very pleasantly surprised. And Robbie Gold kicked a couple of 50-yarders in preseason with some distance to spare. Robbie Gold seems to have been fully recovered from the injuries that were hampering him early in the season and things like that. So I'm all for it, man. Robbie Gold getting his just and getting some props from me, which don't come easy for Robbie Gold. So I like it. I like it a lot.
Definitely. That is rare. All right. Now the moves from today that the 49ers announced. 49ers moved 2 to IR, wave running back, announced practice squad and other moves. Per their website, the 49ers have claimed OL Blake Hance off waivers from the Cleveland Browns inside Tyler Croft and defensive lineman Jordan Willis to 1-year deals. In order to make room on the roster, the team placed Curtis Robinson and Jimmy Ward on injured reserve and waived Trey Sermon. The team also announced they have signed the following 13 players to their practice squad: defensive lineman Alex Barrett, safety Sean Gibson, offensive lineman Alfredo Gutierrez, safety Taylor Hawkins, corner Quantrez Knight, wide receiver Tabe Martin, linebacker Marcelino McCrary Ball, offensive lineman Jason Poe, wide receiver Willie Snead, defensive lineman Akeem Spence, offensive lineman Keaton Sutherland, defensive lineman Kimoko Toure, and wide receiver Malik Turner. Now, this practice squad, what's your initial take on it?
If you thought that there was a competition for one of the last positions on the team, that guy made it here. So we talked about Toure being a surprise. Whoop, there he is. We talked about Malik Turner, being one of those guys. Whoop, there he is. A lot of people fell in love with Jason Poe. I didn't think that he was going to unseat Burford or Banks, but boom, he's there as well. And so, you kind of like this. You even mentioned to Sean Gibson, someone that they signed later on, hearing about the Jimmy Ward injury. So he's even made it back, and I would not be surprised if they bump him up. And then the other guy that I thought might get a look on the practice squad, I didn't think he was going to make the 53, and it's good to see him here, is Quantrez Knight as well. I like what we saw from him in flashes. So sometimes he was a little out of place and all that, but he's got good recovery speed and all. So I like seeing that as well. Good for this practice squad. It's a really, really good line. And then we go out there and get some more help for the offensive line and Blake Hance. So I like it a lot. Matt, what up?
Hey, how's it going, fellas? Sorry I'm late. Somebody crashed their car on a 2-lane highway, and that just completely stopped everything for a while. So
That's
fun
tough.
times.
All right,
Yeah.
glad you're here. We just finished going over the 53-man roster.
Okay.
Did you have any surprise cuts or anything you wanted to add? We saved the Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance topic until you got here, just so you know.
Perfect. My thing, obviously Trey Sermon's a little bit surprising just from the aspect of the third round capital. Not so much on performance. I thought it was interesting until Trey Sermon was cut that they had kept a bunch of running backs. They brought back Tyler Kroft, though. So it looks like running back and tight end is going to be a focus for this team. And that just tells me that that's more in support of Trey Lance. Those are safety valve type maneuvers. We saw it in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. I mean, he uses running backs and his tight ends a lot. And I think that it's an easy outlet for a young quarterback. If you don't feel like he's, making the reads that he needs to, or he's not progressing, or things aren't going his way, you don't have time, it's extra, just dump something underneath or whatever. And that speaks to, this offensive line being patchwork. I know they picked up that guy from the Browns who they cut Sermon for. And it's another, people like, oh man, he started like 8 games. And I was like, yeah, but he had like a 31.9 pass blocking grade from PFF. PFF is off a lot of ways, but that's really hard to get that off. So it seems like he's not a great pass blocker. And it's another situation where you're throwing stuff against the wall and trying to see what sticks at a position where you really need to be supporting Trey Lance. So it's weird. The 53 man this year is it's just kind of weird. 5 wide receivers, 4 tight ends, 4 running backs, 5 if you count Juszczyk. The offensive makeup is just, it's odd. I don't get it.
Well, there were only 3 tight ends this year. It was Warner.
They signed
it's Kittle, Warner,
today. They signed him back today.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I thought you were talking
So
about the
that's
initial.
4 now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you make of it, right? I mean, it's like Shanahan has a way. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was going to say, before we get to the quarterback thing, because I know that's like the big topic there, which running back, you talked about the safety valve, in the passing game, they got rid of Hasty. And I know a lot of people thought that was Shanahan's guy, right? Which one of those running backs do you guys think is going to be the pass-catching guy? Is it Jeff Wilson Jr.'s role, former wide receiver? Or do you think, because from what I saw from Price in the preseason, I wasn't too excited on that. We didn't see Mason get many targets in the passing game. So how do you guys feel about that?
TDP looks like he's got stone hands. I don't want to throw him the ball at all. Like, just give him the rock. I think it's more of if they're doing, some of the triple option stuff, if they're working Deebo Samuel out of the backfield, I think that's where you really see a lot of safety valve type stuff. Elijah Mitchell, I think, has a little bit of pass catching ability, not a ton, but it's going to be him and Jeff Wilson Jr. Because, I don't know enough about Mason, but he's obviously going to be like the fourth string guy with, him and TDP. TDP is not a pass catching back. That dude's first and second down or 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of guy. He's not. I've seen enough practice footage to know that the ball just seems to ricochet off of him. So I think those other 2 guys.
I'm interested to see what they do with Mason. I think he can have that similar role to JaMychal Hasty. We didn't see much of it, but maybe we will. All right.
I'll tell you this, though. I'll tell you this. I'm interested to see how TDP turns out, but for the love of God, they need to stop drafting running backs in the 3rd and 4th round, man. It just Joe Williams.
We just talked about this, and Mike was like, I think they can keep doing it.
Oh my God. They need to stop. They need to stop, man.
I'm with you. Mike disagrees. He thinks that they need to just, if they feel the talent is there, go for it. But they get the production out of these undrafted and late round guys. I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah. See, that's my thing. Like 3rd round running back, that's where you want to get some productive guys, but they don't show that they're good at evaluating at that spot. I'd rather them throw it more to positions of need. Like, I would have rather had a guard in the 3rd round or like a center in the 3rd round, right? You're they keep again, it's the D-line thing, right? How many years in a row do they draft first-round defensive linemen? And then you really have only a couple that hit. You got a couple that are gone, whatever. It's always just throwing it at a position of the same position over and over. You got to get better at evaluation. Otherwise, you're going to have to like do something else with it.
When your rosters are stacked as the Niners, right? You don't expect all your draft picks to make the 53, right? You're hoping to get some of these guys and stash them on the practice squad. That can go for running backs, like anybody that's getting drafted. Right now, we have one of the top 5 talented rosters in the NFL. Right? We did a whole breakdown here, and the Niners are pretty freaking stacked. They might have even been top 3, right? And so when you're thinking about it from that perspective, oh shit. All right, when you're thinking about it from that perspective, it's nothing wrong with going out there and grabbing some guys to say, hey, they've got talent. Let's see if they can be consistent. That was kind of my breakdown with it. We're going to have 8 picks next year. 8 guys aren't going to make this roster. So I'm not upset that if it's a running back is one of those guys that don't make the roster. But if you do hit, it's going to be like, there it is. Some things you're going to have to keep throwing it there, especially because it's a position that we constantly run through all of them. I think Kyle said it. We go through like 6 running backs a year. So keep going until you hit on one of these guys. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I see it from that perspective. But they weren't drafting for running back 1. That's obviously they have that in Elijah Mitchell. They weren't drafting TDP to be like the number 1 guy. They're supplementing Elijah Mitchell. I just think that when you're transitioning to a young quarterback, this would have been the year, hey, use that 3rd-round capital on offensive line where you have problems, rather than going the undrafted route, really, and late-round selection on all these offensive linemen with Poe and West and Zakelj and all these other guys, right? You could have spent a little more capital on a guy that might have been a little more of a, not a sure thing, but a little more cachet, that you have a little bit better idea of how he might translate, rather than, oh, let's draft another running back 2 or 3 in the 3rd round. That just situationally for this year, that's why I think they should have gone that way rather than TDP. In another year, if this was like a veteran quarterback, or if it was like 2 years from now, Lance is firmly established, we know that he's pretty good, then definitely like you can take a shot or whatever. But they could have used interior offensive line or like safety. Dude, this is a thin safety team, man. Like it's Jimmy Ward starting on IR, and so you have Tarvarius Moore, Odom, and Talanoa Hufanga. Really, like, it's not the best.
Also, can I just say real quick, Mike? I understand. Definitely don't expect all the players to make the roster. I think you hope your 3rd round makes it, though, especially when you don't have a first and your first makes in the 2nd. I think you're hoping that 3rd rounder makes it.
But or that he makes it more than 1 season.
He made it for 2 seasons, guys. He made it for 2 seasons.
Does this season count?
No. He wasn't. Sermon
was last year was a rookie.
I see what you're saying. But he made.
Yeah, so you hope he makes it more than 1. I mean, he's not Alex Leatherwood bad, but that's still bad,
All right. Without further ado, Matt is here. It's gonna get spicy. Hit like, hit subscribe, share the show, whatever the hell you want to do to support us. Jimmy Garoppolo is back. The news breaks. He restructured his contract. He's getting paid less than Lance. That was the whole deal. That was the only way this works, according to Kyle Shanahan, is if you got paid less. Or whoever had the report. Ian Rappaport. I forget which reporter said that. Matt, I'm going to ask you first. What do we make of this?
Man, this fucking team, man. It's weird. It's weird. I get it from a purely football standpoint, right? You're not going to find a better backup quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo, but it still doesn't make sense. You're hedging. It's the coward move. Listen, you want to transition to Lance, you got to transition wholeheartedly. You got the guy that he replaced still in the building. Kurt Warner said it best. He was on Rich Eisen's show, and he was like, man, I remember when Eli came in and, they went with Eli after, a certain amount of time. And he's like, players would come up to me and be like, man, like, you're better. Like, why aren't you playing? Like, man, we need you. Man, we need this. We need that. And if Trey Lance gets out to a slow start, or he has ups and downs, like we all know that he is, because he's limited experience, first year as a full-time starter, that those little little chirps are going to come in from different players. You know, Deebo Samuel, from George Kittle. If one of them's not getting the ball as much with Trey Lance under center, and the team goes through a rough stretch, all of a sudden the chirping begins, and then you could easily divide your locker room. And it's easy for people outside to say that's definitely going to happen or that's never going to happen. But for us to be like, you know, it's like being at a job and you replace your manager, but then your manager is underneath you still. Like that doesn't happen anywhere. I get it from the football aspect, but from the wishy-washy aspect of the regime, I just think it's kind of like a cowardly move. It was the easy way out for me.
Mike, please. What's your take on this? Come on.
I completely disagree. I don't think it's cowardly at all. I said it from the day we drafted Trey Lance. If you could get Trey Lance a year in the system, let him learn. Hopefully he's ready by year 2. And Jimmy, if you can't trade him, you restructure that contract and make him a backup and make it very clear. The Niners couldn't have made it any more clear that they weren't planning on Jimmy being here this year. And so you guys cannot tell me that you'd be more comfortable going into this season with Lance, Sudfeld, and Purdy as opposed to Lance, Garoppolo, and Purdy. There's no way that anyone's going to say that with a straight face and mean it. And as far as looking over your shoulder, I'm not looking over my shoulder for the guy that they brought me in to replace. I have all the confidence in the world, so much so that they tried to get rid of him for 2 years in a row. They tried to get rid of this guy for 2 years in a row. And the fact that your GM and your head coach are at the podium, this is on the record, saying that, yeah, if he didn't get that surgery, we think he was going to be gone. I'm not worried about that guy. Sure, bring him back. I don't care. I'm here for a reason. That's what I was here for. I don't know. Maybe I have a little bit more confidence in myself than people think Trey Lance has in himself, but he's not going to be looking over his shoulder. Those players, those same players in that scenario Matt was talking about, oh, if things aren't going their way, we were 3-5 and Jimmy looked like boo-boo. All right. So what? Yeah, people are going to be clamoring for Lance. Let's see what he can do. Let's see what he can do. I highly, highly doubt that people are going to be like, oh my God, I'm not getting the ball enough. I want badass Jimmy back. This is the same guy that we could not wait to get rid of. Literally half this fan base hates that he's on this roster. I don't think that's going to change people in the locker room. They're closer to the situation than we are. I don't see it playing out that way.
I don't know. Here's my thing. If you're comfortable enough to trade away Jimmy, you'd be going into the season with Lance, Purdy, Sudfeld. You couldn't trade him. So instead of cutting him and still being comfortable and making it clear this is about Trey Lance, you sign Jimmy Garoppolo. And not only do you sign him, everybody's talking about the 6.5, but you put a bunch of playtime escalator clauses in there. Like, I'm not the type of person that's like, I'm going to plan for my starting quarterback to get injured. I think that's the cowardly way out. That's hedging your bet. My bet would be like, Lance is going to be healthy for all 17. We ride or die with this guy. That's the way that it is. You know what I'm saying? They put all this stuff. Look, they got clauses in there. If he plays X amount of plays in the playoffs, X amount of plays in a championship game, X amount, they know they're a Super Bowl roster. So, like, to put that into, and for Jimmy to agree to that, Jimmy's got to think at some level or another. I probably could have got more than 6.5 on the open market. He could have got more than 6.5 on the open market.
Not this late in the season.
He could have
This
got
late in the season?
Yes, definitely.
No way.
Seattle would have given that in a heartbeat.
You have to also keep in fact that it's two parties here. This isn't just the Niners saying, okay, we're going to keep you and this is what we're going to give you, right? If Jimmy's agents are worth half their weight in salt, which Don Yee is a top agent in the NFL, he's going to say, all right, well, not only do we want to stay, if we're going to stay as a backup, what happens if we get in here? Just like Deebo has all the escalators and things like that, right? Like, that's incentive for your guy to say, all right, fine, I'll stay here. Because if Jimmy hits all those incentives and he makes that $13 million this year, he wasn't going to get that anywhere else right now. He wasn't. There was no market for him right now. People wanted him in there. They wanted to work him out. They wanted to see what he could do early, and the Niners weren't going to release him. I think Don Yee and that crew, they went out, they sought trades. They said, we're not going to take this trade with that contract. It's not going to happen. So what do? You make the base salary just $6 million. Now, everyone that was saying, well, wait for him to get cut, damn, maybe we should go ahead and trade for this guy. Now, all of a sudden, the trade talks will pick back up, and your guy, Jimmy, is happy in the event that he has to go out there and actually play. Boom, you're going to make more than just $6 million. It's a win for everybody. It's a business.
But then why the no trade?
The no trade means you can't, because you can't just send me anywhere. You're not going to send me to the Falcons. You're not going to send me to whatever team without me agreeing to it. That no trade doesn't mean he can't be traded.
Trade from him. The only teams that would trade for him at this point would be teams that he would actually have a shot at playing for. So why the no trade?
Because, all right, let me ask you this question. Honestly, right? Look at Mitchell Trubisky. Bombs out over there in Chicago. Fast forward, he's riding the bench behind Josh Allen, and all of a sudden he has a market value. Had he had to go in there and play and look poorly, he would not have got that contract he got this year from Pittsburgh. He wouldn't have, because Josh Allen, because Mitchell Trubisky isn't as good as what that contract says he is. But because he was a former first-round pick, and this guy had been to a couple of postseason games, didn't win anything, but he got the Bears to the postseason, and he sat for a whole year, people start to forget about all the negative, and they say, you know what? This guy's got some experience. That's what Jimmy and his team are hoping for at the same time. All right, let's go here. Hopefully we ride the pine, and all of a sudden, this guy's been in the Super Bowl. This guy's been in an NFC Championship game the year that they didn't make the Super Bowl. All right, let's trade for him now, or let's pick him up in free agency, and he's going to get $20 million.
Yeah, but here's the difference. Mitchell Trubisky left the Bears. Jimmy Garoppolo is cucking to Trey Lance and being like, yeah, I'm cool being your backup. That shows no fight. That shows I don't give a shit about playing time. I don't want to try to fight for a starting position. I know I'm not going to start here. If I got released and could sign on for somebody, like maybe I have a shot at playing, whether that be Seattle, whether that be Atlanta, whether that be, Pittsburgh. Like, you don't think he would start in Pittsburgh? He could start in Pittsburgh. Whether that's not taking advantage of the 11 games that Deshaun Watson's going to be out as like a trial and say, hey, I'll take the first 11 games and I'll sit for the last 6 because I know I can put something on tape with that roster for 2023. No, I'm going to sit behind Trey Lance. It's cool. I'm going to collect my little paycheck and I'm going to sit there. And maybe on the off chance he gets injured, yeah, I have some escalators in there. But it shows no fight, man. I'm not going to say if somebody replaced me,
who are you mad at? Company. But who are you mad at then? Are you mad at Jimmy for taking the backup role, or are you mad at the team? The team did what's best in their interest. The team did.
They didn't do what's best in Trey's interest, and you can't say we're 100% behind Trey, dude. Why? Okay, look at the backup quarterback situations around the NFL. Who's the backup quarterback behind Patrick Mahomes? Who's the backup quarterback behind Josh Allen? Who's the backup quarterback behind any number of these franchise guys? I mean, for God's sakes, dude, Jordan Love is still the backup for Aaron Rodgers, right? If anything happens to any of those guys, but none of these other teams are saying we definitely need to have the best backup in the league. Why? If you firmly believe in Trey Lance, if you're playing the what if Trey Lance gets injured game, you're taking the coward's way out. That's not how you.
The Niners aren't playing the what if Trey Lance gets injured game. That's Jimmy's team putting that writing in there, and every team in the entire NFL would have loved to bring Ryan Fitzpatrick as the backup because he was the best backup in the NFL. Now we got the best backup in the NFL. How is that a fault of the 49ers? I just don't get it. I don't understand it.
Because you cut him to send a message to the locker room. This is Trey's team. You're leaving residual doubts.
Bro, he didn't
have let me get in here. Let me get in here. I get what both of you guys are saying. I do not like this move from the 49ers on the sense what I've been talking about this whole time, what I was told by multiple people, I believe Mike included, that this is not a real thing, that the players don't act like this. But if you're telling me the 49ers started out shaky, which is very possible, a young quarterback almost never hits the ground running at a above average caliber. There are players that are going to be like, hey, we were successful with him. He's sitting right there. I can see him. There's a very, very good chance that he could start next week. Why don't we just do that and get this, maybe the learning curve is a little too steep for the rookie, or I say the rookie, Trey Lance, and we know we can win right now. So I don't like it by that sense. I agree. The message that it sends also is that we're not fully comfortable with him. Mike Silver, we all, have our own feeling about him, wrote, I believe today, that this was because of Trey Lance not fully proving himself in the offseason and in the preseason. Make of that what you will. Maybe he's full of shit. All I know is that there are some things that he said, including the arm fatigue, while it was kind of taken out of context, and while Kyle Shanahan said it was last year where it happened like one time, and you guys are totally blowing this up, everybody said this was bullshit. It was kind of confirmed in a weird way. The Mac Jones was bullshit. Kyle Shanahan later came out and said, I don't know what the quote was exactly, but he basically hinted at the fact that it was between Mac and Trey. So I think Mike Silver does have some sort of connect high up at the 49ers to where this stuff is getting out. And I don't like the guy. I think he's an asshole. I think he's a coward. But I'm just saying he's not getting this from no one.
And you're also leaving open all this speculation. Niners aren't sold on Lance. Niners aren't sold on Lance. That was a national media narrative. That was like the narrative all off season. And it's still the narrative now because they've brought Jimmy back in. And I don't care who you are. If you hear enough of they don't believe in me, and you start to struggle, then you start to believe things like that too. If someone's always telling you you're a piece of shit, eventually you're going to be like, dang, dude, am I a piece of shit? And I'm not, again, it's not great for Lance. And I'm telling you, like, listen, all the former NFL players that have commented on this are saying it like this. If Trey Lance struggles, they're going to look to the dude that's gotten them there before.
What does a struggle mean? Someone give me a definition, and let's stop speaking in vague terms. If Trey Lance comes out in week 1 and throws 3 interceptions, you think they're going to say, "Oh no, give us Jimmy now"?
No, but what if they start 1-2?
They were 3-5.
Right, but then they turned that around.
It was a bad 3-5 with an 8-year veteran.
Right. But listen, dude, that was a long time ago because Jimmy got them to the NFC Championship game. So, and that's an 8-year veteran, not a whatever.
At what point do we stop reading tweets and articles and look at what our eyes are telling us? We have at some point, the three of us, 49ers content creators, have to trust our eyes. How many passes has Jimmy Garoppolo thrown to guys like Ray McLeod? None. How many passes Jimmy Garoppolo thrown to Danny Gray? None. And all of a sudden you think players who made the 53-man roster, we only got 5 receivers, are going to say, oh, put Jimmy in instead? We know what Jimmy Garoppolo is going to do for a guy like Brandon Ayuk and his production.
Yeah, but what kind of stroke do those players have on this team? Ray McLeod ain't got no fucking stroke. If somebody like George Kittle said, hey, Jimmy might give us a better chance to win, that carries more weight with Kyle than others. And I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen. I fully expect Trey Lance to come out and play well. But you're leaving the door open.
Mike, you're telling me
it's like keeping your ex-girlfriend as a side piece, dude.
Yeah, okay.
That's what it is.
What's wrong with that? You enter a new relationship and you might not like the way this girl chews bubblegum. So you're going to go and be in the presence of your ex-girlfriend who you love the way she chews the bubblegum.
This is totally different. This is like you cheated on your wife, got divorced, and now you're with the new girl and you're still texting your ex-wife. It's like you made all this giant commitment to get away from the guy and replace this guy. And you did move on. You're now with him, yet you're still keeping the old guy around too, which Mike, I will say I agree with the fact that the 49ers, if they were not people, did the right thing. If there were not actual human beings involved with feelings and emotions, because yes, of course you want the best backup. I get that 100%.
The football move, it's the best football move.
Yes,
for sure.
But Mike, you can't sit here and tell me that this doesn't send the wrong message. You say, look in front of us and read what's in front of our eyes. The 49ers are telling us how they feel.
You guys are going to think I'm making this up for the sake of the show, but I swear to you, I'm not. My ex-girlfriend is my wife's best friend. So I left my ex-girlfriend. I married my wife, and they are friends. We all still text. She comes over. My wife is my ex-girlfriend's godmother, guys. Like, it can happen. It's business. Hey, look, we didn't work out in this way. You weren't good as my primary girlfriend, but you're a great personality. You're a good human, and there's some benefit to having you around. There's nothing wrong with that. And only
enough room for one quarterback on the field, though, my man.
That's right. And who's the one quarterback?
For now.
Get the fuck out of here.
Again, right. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen. I'm saying that it does send the wrong message.
It's just weird.
You think this has no bearing on Lance at all? Or the team at all?
No. I don't. When you say at all, I understand you're like, Mike, there's not one time he's going to look over his shoulder. I'm 100% sure that Trey Lance is going to throw an interception in week 1. I am 100% sure of that because I saw the way the Bears were disguising coverages in preseason. You can tell they're getting ready to do that for the young guy who is making his first career start as the starter, as QB1, right? That's fine. He's going to make those mistakes. You know how I know I'm confident in that? Kyle's gone out and said it. We don't expect him to play flawless. We have built a roster where we don't have to have perfect production from any quarterback that's on this team. So it's going to take hell and earth moving, hell and like heaven and hell moving for Jimmy to get in there. That it's not like, again, we have to trust our eyes, bro. Bro, Kyle straight up said, we didn't want him here. It was because of the surgery that he still is here. No one wanted him. They could have cut him, yes. But you know what happened in the last hour? Don Yee and Jimmy said, you know what? All right, don't cut us at this point. It's too late now. The September 10th date started rolling around, right? That's when the real guarantees came in. All right, fine. Forget it. Don't cut us now. Don't give us 2 weeks. Don't do that. How about we take a backup role? That's them making that offer to the 49ers. The Niners said they didn't think it was possible. Kyle and John both held that press conference and said they didn't think it was possible. Not that Jimmy said it wasn't possible. They didn't think it was possible. That tells me
here's case in point.
That contract was brought to them, and they said, "Oh, well, shit. If he's willing to settle, then absolutely, let's do it." Then
here's case in point how fucked up this is. Okay, first of all, with the young player, Trey Lance going to throw an interception. That's fine. Okay, but as we all know, with young people, a mistake turns into another mistake, and like you said, we all know at least once he's going to look over his shoulder. Now, what if that looking over his shoulder turns into, fuck, man, I got to play better because, like, if I don't, you never know. But here's case in point why this is a move that is just a little bit too much. The fact that they had to have a press conference about signing a fucking backup quarterback because there's so much there already. There's so much history there already. And now the players still got to talk about that shit. And they've been talking about it since the end of the season last year. They still got to talk about it. They're going to get asked. You know how these beat reporters are. They're going to ask about that shit every week. I see it
completely different. I think the reason they had that press conference is to, again, put the stamp on this is Trey's team. Jimmy is only the backup. We only did this because we didn't think that he was going to accept that contract, and he did. That's why you have that press conference, so we don't waste time on our shows saying this. That's exactly why they had that press conference. There was nothing about, oh, well, if Trey is struggling. Kyle came straight out in that press conference and said, we expect him to struggle. I don't understand, like, how...
I mean, John Lynch also said that Trey Sermon was one of the best players in camp, and that dude's on the waiver wire now. So...
He made the 53, and we needed some more people. We needed another offensive lineman. You guys said yourselves, I wish we actually drafted a corner, a safety or a center, right? So what do? They go out and they go get an offensive lineman. Right? Like, who's more important? Who's more valuable?
No, what I'm saying is John Lynch lied to everybody's face and said Trey Sermon was one of the best players in camp. If he was, they wouldn't have cut him. They would have cut Mason.
There were 80 people there. You're telling me that Trey Sermon wasn't a top 30? He was a top 30. That's why he made the 49ers.
Right, Mike.
5 players on the.
But if he was top 30, he'd still be there.
Mike,
he was a top 25.
Would you agree Mayoko is arguably the most well-connected 49ers
friendly?
I've been saying all season that Mayoko's losing the shit, and Zach, you know it.
Zach, I know you have, but that does not change that he's well-connected, right? At the very least. So this is what I don't like. If you have somebody as well-connected, and usually pro-Niners, usually the unofficial reporter, podcaster for the Niners, their mouthpiece, the night that this happened, he was on KMBR, and he says, not only is there a safety net, if the 49ers lose at Chicago and Trey Lance doesn't play well, that safety net might become a trampoline that bounces over Trey Lance and could be the starter the next week. We're talking one fucking game.
Trey Lance, Matt Mayoko also said, I'm willing to bet everything that it's Mac Jones. Matt Mayoko has been so disconnected from the quarterback position and what they're doing there. It's not even funny. It's not even funny. So I don't give a shit. Sorry. No disrespect. All the disrespect. I don't care how you want to spin it. I don't give a fuck what Matt Mayoko was saying about the quarterback position and what this team intends to do with it. Because the fact of the matter is, had Jimmy not had that surgery, or he had it early enough where he could have been healthy and worked out for other teams, his ass would not be here. I don't give a and even when Matt said this, I quote tweeted and was like, I really hope this is taken out of context because Matt should know better. And I tagged him in it. That's not a disrespectful thing. I'm saying it to this guy. I know he saw it. I don't give a fuck what Matt Mayoko has to say about it. So we're going to believe beat writers. We're going to believe guys who are making bullshit headlines like Matt Silver, and we're going to ignore what the head coach and the GM are saying. We're going to believe everybody else except the people that we're hearing directly from in the organization.
It's not that we don't believe the head coach. It's that the people that stand at the podium and ask the fucking questions every week are going to ignore the head coach. If Trey Lance struggles, they're not going to remember the press conference because everything's about what just happened now. And they're going to ask players, oh, how you feel about this? How you feel about that? Oh, if Trey Lance throws 3 picks and a half, one of the first questions they're going to ask Kyle at a press conference, if they're losing that game, is going to be, hey, was there ever a moment there that you thought about maybe bringing Jimmy Garoppolo in?
Look at Jimmy Garoppolo. Look at Jimmy Garoppolo's first half stats in that Rams game. The game that we needed to win.
Bro, you're talking about old shit. We're talking about new shit.
Now it doesn't matter. Now it's all old shit, right? How is it that Jimmy Garoppolo restructures to take significantly less, is told he's the backup, and all of a sudden he's better? He's as good as Trey Lance. He's more worthy of the
let's flip it around.
I just don't understand
let's
what's
flip it around
right now.
So 7 months ago, Trey Lance was not good enough to supplant Jimmy Garoppolo as a starter, but now he is.
That's what off seasons are for. Players get better in the off season. Absolutely. Trey Lance worked day in and day out during OTAs, after OTAs, before OTAs. He was holding the court. Remember the Camp Alex shit? Trey Lance did that this offseason. He did that. He was out there throwing to everyone except Debo. His words, team's words, not mine. Yes, guys get better in the offseason. What was Jimmy doing in the offseason?
Wait, hold up a second. Hey, hold up a second. Be respectful in the chat. Don't be calling people idiots and shit. Y'all gotta lock that up. That's not what we do here.
This is what Jimmy and Trey does.
Chat environment. Because I can tell you right now, even though we're all disagreeing right here, it's all love. Like none of us are like actually mad at each other or anything like that. Like none of that. I don't want that. Straight up.
So
I'll ban you.
I agree with you. I understand what you're saying. Yes, that's what the offseason's for. I just have a hard time thinking that from January to August, and this is coming from somebody who thinks that Trey should have started last year. According to the 49ers, you cannot sit me and tell me that he wasn't good enough to play over Jimmy in January, yet come August, he's good enough that there can't even be a discussion that Jimmy has to now be a bench player, and we can't even, it was made a point, and it will not be discussed, and he's only a backup.
I got you. You
Get
ready?
me.
We're going to believe all the reports. We're going to believe what Mayoko's saying. We're going to believe what Silver's saying, right? They got ties to the team and all that. What about the reports that came out during preseason saying that Trey Lance was going to be the starter had he not injured his hand? What about the reports that came out later in the season saying the reason why Kyle ran him so much in that Cardinals game is because of that hand injury? What about the reports saying that after the Colts game, he was going to be the starter going forward, but there was something else going on? Are we going to ignore all of that also? So we're just going to pick and choose what to believe and what not to believe? Trey Lance was supposed to be the guy. No matter how you spin it, whether it was the beginning of last season and then he had the hand injury or what they're telling you right now. We can't just pick and choose which parts of the reports we're going to believe and what parts we're going to buy into.
But
I'm believing it all. I'm believing it all. That's the thing. I think you're picking and choosing.
You believe it all or you believe none of it. But the fact of the matter is, hold on. But the fact of the matter is if they would have signed any other backup quarterback, we would not be having this discussion. We would not be having this debate. We wouldn't even give a shit. We'd be like, oh, cool. That's a good backup for Trey. It's the fact that it's Jimmy Garoppolo that anybody is even picking. And, people are saying, hey, Jimmy could take over if Trey Lance struggles or nah, Jimmy's washed or whatever. But the fact that there could be that debate back and forth only exists because this is a controversial move. And I fully believe in Trey Lance, and I think he's going to end it. But the fact that you even leave the crack in the door's unlocked. It's not even cracked, but you left the lock open.
Yeah.
All right. And the fact that it can even be a discussion, the fact that we save this for our main topic should tell you this is not just a normal thing. This is almost an unprecedented thing where you have a starter that takes you to a Super Bowl and takes you to an NFC championship, whether he was the main driver or not, suddenly become the backup of another quarterback that allegedly the team is unsure about.
Trent Dilfer was so bad at the quarterback position in the postseason, they won the Super Bowl and cut him the next season. The Niners were in the Super Bowl, lost, and tried to trade Jimmy immediately. This is not unprecedented. This is not some groundbreaking shit.
The fact that he's still on the team is unprecedented. Most situations, that quarterback would be gone.
Hey, let's start him. Fuck it. Let's just start Jimmy and keep Trey as a backup.
Dude. Like that, you're taking this out of context. I'm not even advocating for Jimmy to start. I'm advocating for we're done with Jimmy. Get him the fuck off the team. If he's not playing, then what the fuck is his use here?
As the backup. You guys know the expression about pressure and diamonds, right? Right?
Yeah,
pressure,
yeah.
Pressure creates diamonds, or it busts pipes, however you choose to do it. Which one of the three backups that we potentially were entertaining, Jimmy Garoppolo, Purdy, or Sudfeld, is going to apply more pressure for Trey Lance to be better?
What pressure does he need other than the fact this is a Super Bowl roster and he's a year one starter? Why does he need more pressure on top of that?
That's not what I asked.
He's 22. How much pressure are we going to put on a kid?
Right. He's got a Super Bowl roster. If Jimmy was not on this roster, even if he was elsewhere and he was struggling, people would be like, fuck, the 49ers should have kept Jimmy Garoppolo. Now the dude's in the building and you could replace him with him. And you don't think that shit's going to you don't think that's not even going to get in Trey Lance's ear at all? If that's the case? Yeah. Now I hope he balls out and has like a Patrick Mahomes season, but I'm also realistic and know that the kid's going to struggle. I'm also realistic in knowing that dude is going to hear footsteps because everybody does.
It's just
he's not Michael Jordan that got cut from his team and got so mad that he just became the best ever and punched teammates in practice because he was just like, nah, I'm that dude. He's not that guy. Trey Lance is too nice a kid for that.
Yeah. I think all we were hoping for was what the 49ers basically hinted at all offseason was full, unfettered commitment to Trey Lance. And while they might say that's still the case, this move just says otherwise. I think that's it. Even a little bit, even 10%, we want to have our cake and eat it too. I just wish they made the move and fully committed to Trey Lance and said, this is how much we believe and trust in you. We're not even going to keep the guy that we just replaced you with, or you replaced, excuse me. That's all I was hoping for. I like Jimmy. I think he's a great guy, great pro, easily the best backup in the NFL now. Probably could have gone to start in a handful of teams. For some reason, he chose to come here, or stay here, I should say. All right, let's move on because I think we're all kind of okay.
No, Mike got
I have a picture.
I can see it on his face. Go ahead, Mike. We'll let you have the last word.
He shared a picture. I'm going to pull it up.
Because guys, this is the most logical thing possible. I tweeted this in March of 2021. You know, the draft isn't all right. So I do believe they want a better QB room. And with the way it stands, I would put ours against any in the league. This is while Jimmy was still the starter and Lance was the backup. But what I don't think they did was move to 3 for a backup. When Lance is ready, I think they either try to trade Jimmy or restructure him as a backup. This is exactly what happened. This wasn't written out of emotion. This was written out of logic. This is the lot. We literally made the logical move, and most teams can't afford to do that. You know why? Because if you move on from one starter, other teams want him as your starter. Jimmy pigeonholed himself and made himself not be available to be another team's starter this offseason. What happened? We were gifted this backup situation. We were gifted it. This whole tweet says it. We don't trade up to number 3 so a guy can look over his shoulders. He's itching to get in there. He's one of those.
What does Jimmy offer to Trey Lance that another veteran couldn't offer?
Pressure.
Because like the best coaches, the best ones that teach aren't the best players. They're the ones that are career backups that study everything, that can give the starter what they need from a coaching and like a supplement to what the coaches are telling him without putting the pressure of shit. This dude like was the starter last year and whatever.
Any backup.
And by the way, Jimmy ghosted the team allegedly after signing his contract. Right? Jimmy is not known as being like a super playbook guy. Jimmy's not known for being the first dude in the building and the last dude to leave. So what is he offering Trey Lance other than a little bit of pressure behind him?
Who knows this system better, Nate Sudfeld or Jimmy Garoppolo?
I'm willing to guess. I'm willing to guess Nate Sudfeld probably.
Given that Jimmy didn't get a playbook and is completely out. I mean, I know he knows the system, but
Kyle said he didn't have a playbook. He
hasn't even met the quarterback's coach. We're in August 31st. He hadn't met the quarterback's coach
because he wasn't a part of the team and they were planning to move on. That's my point. That's exactly why Lance shouldn't be looking over his shoulder.
But you don't think that it's a hedge to say we absolutely need the best backup in the league? Like if you're sitting there going like just in case, they're gun shy because Jimmy got hurt 2 years.
I agree.
They're gun shy, and that's that's playing into this move. They're hedging their bet.
Yeah. Well,
oh man, what if Trey gets hurt? They're playing scared.
From the time we drafted Trey, John Lynch said, we can win games with Jimmy. That's evident. But he gets hurt too much. That's exactly what John Lynch said. So again,
right. But then they're looking at Trey's chipped finger and the knee thing, and they're like, oh man, Trey, oh man, here goes those quarterback injuries again. Oh man, we got to hedge. But a lot of does anybody remember that Patrick Mahomes in like year 3, I think it was, missed a bunch of games because he dislocated his knee? Like people don't remember that, right? Josh Allen missed a couple of games because of a concussion. Aaron Rodgers missed like six or 7 games, right? But who are their backups? Can you name any of them? No, because if that's your dude, that's your dude. That is what it is.
How many games did they win while those quarterbacks were out? And versus how many do you think the Niners would win if Trey Lance had to miss 6 games?
Okay, but you can't. Kyle Shanahan literally just told us
the what if game. You're telling us exactly the cowardly move. I don't play the what if game. Trey Lance is my starter, plain and simple. I don't play the what if game. You could use that $6.5-7 million for Jimmy to get other pieces that you need, like the offensive line. Like, yeah, I'd hedge with Jimmy too if I had this offensive line because Trey Lance is going to get fucking pummeled because you didn't do nothing but throw bullshit at it the whole offseason. So, yeah, of course you need Jimmy Garoppolo because you didn't do your fucking job.
Okay.
All right,
Mike, all I'll say is that we literally sat here a couple of weeks ago and went over papers right here that I cannot find the quote for, which Kyle Shanahan said, I will never say that the season's over if the quarterback goes down. It's not on the quarterback. It's on all of us. If it is on the quarterback and the quarterback goes down, that's my problem. That's my fault. So then they turn around 2 weeks later and make it a point to sign a starting caliber backup quarterback. Weren't you just saying it doesn't matter if the starting quarterback goes down because you should have been in position with the team that you currently have to still win games? Maybe this is his way of doing it. I disagree with the way. He's up there. I'm down here. Who the hell gives a shit what I think? But with all that being said.
Well, let's revisit Mike's old premise. Mike said he thinks Jimmy Garoppolo starts more than 8 games this next season. What do you say now?
When did he say this?
I said that on
when we were talking about where Jimmy was going to go.
Yeah, where he was going to go. San Francisco was not one of the. You don't go to.
But you said he was like a top 15 starter, right?
Yep.
Okay, what if Trey struggles and they got a top 15 starter in their back pocket?
Trey's top 14.
You think they're going to flush the Super Bowl roster if Trey starts 3-5? Probably not.
You think? Oh, so then you think they make the switch this year at 3-5 and not last year?
Yeah.
Stop it.
Because Jimmy has the track record of the Super Bowl. That Super Bowl cachet gets you a lot.
I was listening to
Haberman
Metalkoff today, and they made the point that Kyle Shanahan is addicted to winning. He wants to win at all costs, which all NFL coaches should want to, obviously. But I think there's a chance. I don't know. He's on what, year 4, year 5? How long has he been the coach of the 49ers now? Is this year 5? 6? This is year 6. He just saw his understudy beat him and go on to win a Super Bowl. He's probably, if they are sitting there, 3
that
and
chaps
5,
his
3 and
ass
6,
big time. You know,
3 and 7. Yes, he might say, Trey, I love you. You're definitely the future. But this year, I got to save my year. I got to save the players here who are aging, and maybe we're going to go with Jimmy for the rest of the year. That's a huge if. I'm playing what ifs. I'll give you that, Mike. I am. I don't think it'll happen, but the fact that we're having this fucking conversation because they brought back Jimmy is what bugs me the most. We shouldn't even have to be talking about any of this.
I wanted to be done with Jimmy, and I will admit that some of this is my bias, that I'm just like, I wanted him to get the fuck out of here, and now I got to sit here and talk about his ass more, which I don't like. Tommy Huxley says, "Stop crying over spilt milk, Zach and Matt. Hey, why don't you go cry into a pool of tears over that giant sweep that just happened right now? Hold that shit."
All right,
it's got something to do with baseball, I'm assuming, but like, all right, go ahead.
Before we move on, I'm not going to play this full clip, but Richard Sherman talked about this situation on his podcast, and I want to get a couple of minutes over his thoughts and get what you guys think.
Follow me all year long for the best content in the NFL. Make sure you subscribe. Talk to you soon.
Dang, he got free plug right there.
You know, we've made it almost all the way through training camp.
Jimmy G still or not? Oh, wait. Oh,
Jimmy,
sorry, Mitch.
I'm going to start right there. Let's start in the NFC West. Let's start with your two former teams, the Seattle Seahawks, and most notably the San Francisco 49ers. Let's start right there. Let's start with Jimmy G and the quarterback situation with the 49ers.
Very unique perspective.
Well, I think it is the best case scenario for everybody involved. I think it's one of those situations where somebody for the first time ever had their cake and got to eat it too.
I've been saying that for 20 fucking minutes.
Hey, it's so terrible for Trey Lance, but they were the same people that were sitting there like, well, what happens if Trey Lance isn't ready? What happens if he gets hurt? Then you got nobody. You're out there with somebody who's pretty good. No, you got Jimmy G, who would have been the number one backup to any other quarterback in this league, except he's a starter. He's a guy who just went to the NFC Championship last year. There is no other backup quarterback in the National Football League right now who could say that. I mean, you got a situation in Carolina where you're paying two guys over $15 million, and there's questions whether either of them can get the job done. Like, there's definitely questions on whether either of those guys can get them to a Super Bowl, but then you got people complaining about a situation where they have two guys that they believe can get them there.
Still looking for a free...
All right, I wasn't expecting that ad. Fucking YouTube, but whatever. That's fine. We got the gist. We got the gist of what he's saying.
You got to get that YouTube Premium, bro. Just pay the $12 a month. You ain't got to worry about it.
I will not give these people any money.
Oh, my God, my life. It was so good.
All right, so he basically, yes, feels it's a good move. Give the 49ers, let's get to have their cake and eat it too. I don't know, man.
Boy, talk about fence riding, dude. Talk about a dude who doesn't want to ruffle any feathers.
It's almost like he's friends with him.
It's almost like he used to be on the team and doesn't want to piss anybody off, just in case somebody wants to make a free agent call or something.
All right.
I don't know if I trust his judgment after that ring video I saw. So
we won't go there. We will not go there. Yeah, it's definitely too soon. I like Sherman.
I'm just playing. I like Sherman. No, but this it's a nothing answer. It really is like a nothing answer. I know, Mike, you've been saying that. I know you want to be like, yes, he's Sherman got my back. I can see it on your face. I can see it on your face. But I don't agree with you, and I don't agree with Sherman. I'm just saying. I agree with somebody like Kurt Warner, who was in the locker room living that exact experience, having players come up to him and being like, dang, man, we probably win if you were in there because you're a better player at this moment. Because we don't know if Trey Lance is a better player than Jimmy Garoppolo. He hasn't gone out there and proved it. We don't know yet. I don't think the team knows either. And I think that it was a little bit of disservice done by only giving him X amount of reps in the preseason. I thought he could have played more. You know, he needed some of that. He needed some of those reps, whether it be against the twos or the threes or whatever. Just go out there and let him build some confidence. You know what I'm saying? Like they did it with Javon Kinlaw in the second game. That didn't mean shit. And he went out there and he pushed around dudes that were way less talented than him. And it's like, that's exactly what we want to see out of somebody who's supposed to have your level of talent. You should go out there and dominate people. Why not let Trey Lance get a series against even if you just play him the first quarter and then you're like, all right, we're going to bring you in the third quarter against the threes for like a series and then see if there's a separation. But he needs reps because we don't know how good he's going to be.
I agree with that point. Like he needed more reps. But like you said, that offensive line was pretty terrible, and I don't think I'm going to risk my starting quarterback versus a defensive tackle in those games, especially against guys who are aching to make a play on the opposing team's defensive line against a bad 49ers offensive line.
I hear you.
Like, they're going to try to hit the quarterback as hard as possible because they want that to be talked about. They want to make a highlight reel, and I'm not willing to risk Trey Lance behind this.
I hear you. I hear you on that.
Williams.
You can get reps. There's ways around that. All right, we're gonna do true like RPO, not with you running it, but either RPO or I want you to go out there on this series and I want you to work on pre-snap adjustments. Send a guy in motion, send a guy back, try to see what they're, even if it's just base vanilla defenses or whatever. I want you to practice checking out of plays, checking into plays, go through your audibles. This is the time that I want you to work on that because he's definitely going to need to do that. And you could do that against bad players and still get the result that you want by seeing other people. Like, did you need to see Brock Purdy for 6 quarters? No. You definitely didn't need that, right? Like, let Lance go out there and run a couple series where all he's doing is changing plays or audibling plays or deciding in a split second, do I hand to the running back or do I throw like a screen pass to the flat? Or do I, or you know, do we run a stretch play to the right or do I throw that backside slant? 3-step drop, go. So they don't have time to hit him and get in his face. There are ways to do it, you know, that you could get that done. But I think that he just needed more reps because now we're left again. It's you have the known quantity in Jimmy. And if you're going through a season where, and I think that that's why the situation is different. We know what Jimmy is, dude. Jimmy's a guy that can help a team stay afloat long enough that the better players can carry them to greatness, right? Without messing it up too bad. But we don't know enough about Trey Lance to know if he can survive that same situation that Jimmy was in. Law of averages just said, even when Jimmy was 3-5 last year, he's probably going to like bring it back up. And he did, because we know that Jimmy has a really bad Jimmy game, right? Where he has 2 or 3 interceptions and then he'll come back and he'll throw like a 3 touchdown game. That's just how he's been the entire time. Inconsistent, up and down. We don't know if Trey Lance gets off to a bad start, they're 3-5. He doesn't have that same track record. And then the team's left wondering, well, we know what this guy does. Would we be better off if we just went that direction? And the fact that that's even a conversation piece is what I'm most annoyed about. Because if you were about Trey, you're going to ride or die with Trey, whether that's a good season, a bad season, or otherwise. Because at the end of the day, no matter what the team says, a player like George Kittle, who's turning 30, a player like Trent Williams, who's 30 plus, they don't give a shit who's the quarterback. They want to win because their time on the field is limited. And if they're about championships, there's no loyalty to somebody who's not going to get you wins. Get them out the door for somebody who can. And that's what I worry about because they know Jimmy can get them deep into a playoffs because he's done it twice, both seasons he's been healthy in this city. So that's where I'm coming from.
Cut you off there. Sorry. Thought you were
right.
wrapping up. All right.
No.
So
I was wrapping it up.
We're going to wrap up on this topic, wrap up on the show. Matt, if you want to check the private chat here in StreamYard, but I have up Jimmy Garoppolo's full contract breakdown per Mike Garafolo, $6.5 million fully guaranteed base salary, $500K total and per game roster bonuses, $29K per active game, $250K for each game he takes 25% or more of the offensive snaps, another $100K for each of those games the team wins, $500K for one playoff game he takes over 50% or more of the offensive snaps, $500K for 50% or more of the offensive snaps in the conference championship game, $500K if he wins the conference championship, $1 million if he takes 50% or more of the offensive snaps in the Super Bowl, 15.45 maximum value, no trade clause, no franchise tag clause. Mike, I'm going to throw it to you. If the main hurdle to trading Jimmy Garoppolo was that $27 million, whatever the hell price tag was, right, bill, that now is very, very low. I mean, like Sherman said in that clip, the Panthers are playing 2 guys twice that each. Now, he has the no trade clause. He has no tag clause. So obviously, he'd have to work in collaboration with the Niners and the other team to get traded. But doesn't this make him a fucking shitload easier to trade?
Yeah, it does. And Kyle was asked that same question. Like, does this new contract for Jimmy make him easier to trade. And Kyle's absolutely. So we'll see what happens. But right now he's here and he's going to be the backup. So at 100%. Now the thing is, this cap hit is still 13 million and some change, but that's because certain bonuses are included in the base salary as far as the cap hit goes. So you know how at the end of the year, Niners randomly get back millions of dollars in unearned bonus money? That's how it would work with this situation. So if Jimmy doesn't play, they would actually gain another $7 million at the end of the season with unearned bonus money.
This is the thing that actually concerns me, because there's two types of bonuses that are built into contracts: likely to be achieved and not likely to be achieved. And the fact that these bonuses are calculated into salary cap means they fall into the likely to be achieved camp. Because if they were not likely to be achieved, they would count retroactively against the 2023 cap and not this one. So again, that even says something.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Food for thought.
Yeah. All right. With that all said, we're going to wrap things up. If you guys have any questions, we went a little longer than we were expecting. Ash is waiting for me to cook some dinner.
I have some news for the day. I don't know if you guys went over this already. Shout outs to Joey Arredondo. He put this in the chat. New jersey numbers for 49ers players. So looks like Charvarius Ward is switching to 7. Danny Gray will wear number 6. Brock Purdy will wear 13. And Jordan Mason will wear 24.
Nice. I like those.
I like Danny Gray getting out of the 80s. That's like such an old school thing. Like single digits for a wide receiver is pretty legit. I like that.
And 6 is my lucky number, so I'm all for it for Danny Gray. I like that.
Okay. You know what? And I appreciate the stones on Ward, on Charizard Ward, to pick up a rather
infamous,
contentious, infamous number for the 49ers.
Yeah. All right, guys. Like Matt said earlier, even though we got into it, we got heated. We all love each other. This is a friend podcast. We're all family here. Of course. Do not get into serious arguments over football. No, please do not. It's we're all passionate about the 49ers, and that's why it comes out that way.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, we're still in a group.
We're all going to meet up at that Tampa Bay game. We're all going to meet up ahead of time and give each other hugs and have meals together and shit. Like, it's all love. This is football. This is what we're passionate about. But it's all respect. It's all respect.
And with that said, we got to thank our sponsors. We only got one sponsor tonight, and that is Sports Illustrated. You can click the link in the description and save 30% off of your purchase of Sports Illustrated, the San Francisco 49ers at 75. It's a fantastic hardcover book. Sports Illustrated really outdid themselves. The entire 75-year history of the 49ers is here. Click the link in the description, enter code 49ers30, get 30% off your entire purchase. Do it now. This won't be around for much longer. Shout out Sports Illustrated supporting the show. We really appreciate you guys. And with that said, we're going to wrap things up. Mike, let the folks know where to find you. I'm sure they already do, but let them know where to subscribe.
All good, guys. Great show. My handle is right there, Mike Andrews 83 on Twitter. And if you guys don't already, make sure you guys follow the YouTube page, which is Nothing But Niners. You can search NB9ERS. You can search NBN. You can search Nothing But Niners. However you choose to do it, it will pop up. Make sure you guys are subscribed over there. Great show. Really quick question for you guys. Are you surprised we didn't bring back Tart?
I am, but I don't know if there's interest on his end.
I'm not, simply because the position that we need is opposite of what he plays. So he was the strong safety here rather than the free safety, and Jimmy Ward's the one that's injured that we got to worry about. So he would have to jump Odom and Talanoa Hufanga, I think. I just don't think he fits what we need at the safety position.
I don't think there's mutual interest from his end. I think he's fucking tired of all the fans giving him shit for that dropped interception. That's just my 2 cents. Yeah. But I thought they would.
I mean, he's got to hold that L though.
Yeah.
He does have to hold that. Not the loss for the team, but the loss on that play. Yeah. He's got to hold the play L. No, the team messed that up. But anyway.
All right, Matt, excuse me. You want to carry us out?
Absolutely. Thank you as always for joining us. We appreciate having you here. Sorry for the late start. Sorry that I came in a little late, but we love having you here as always, especially love having Mike here. It's a gas every time he comes in. I like the third man perspective. Always a great show. With that being said, until next time, go Niners.